Hey, everybody, it's Case, and of course, you're hanging out with me on Wall to Wall Country here at Penn's Peak Radio. Second hour of the show, tradition, having a great artist on board. And we're very excited to have one of my favorite bands, one of the members of my favorite bands on the show today. And we're going to be chatting with him, an accomplished musician with several number one hits under his belt. He's a songwriter, he's a producer, he's even had some acting experience, which I'm going to ask him about during the interview, and a longtime staple in the very popular 80s and 90s country western band Highway 101, Mr. Cactus Moser. Hello, Curtis. Cactus. I'm sorry, Cactus.
I had a esteemed colleague named Curtis Stone in that whole Highway 101 experience. So he and I are the probably the two names that it's okay to mix up. We were the closest, involved in all the business.
I know. I was looking at it and I was thinking Curtis, Cactus, and I was like, oh, I said the wrong name. But we have right. Cactus on board today, and yes, you two have been the staple of the band over the years. So let's talk about that just a little bit. Highway 101, fairly popular in the 80s and 90s, still doing some stuff today. We
actually did, we had 16 top 10 records.
Yeah.
And 6 of them were number ones. So we were 4-time Vocal Group of the Year, ACM, CMA, and we were Grammy nominated numerous times, and then even won International Group of the Year, which that's a crazy European award that came to us via, the delightful people across the pond liking what Highway 101 did as well. So it was an amazing. From 87 was the first record. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Late 80s, kind of time frame of country music changing dynamic, where it had been in the early to mid 80s, was very slick and very much, strings on everything and completely sort of a lush landscape. We thankfully showed up kind of unbeknownst really to us, at a time when Dwight Yoakam was happening, Randy Travis was happening, Hank Jr. was having his heyday, and then a whole complete list that is sort of surprising when you think about it, of artists that were new, different, musically different, artistically different. I mean, we came at a time when, we all started making our own records. Country music has and had been and is again an art form where, a handful of studio musicians go in with a singer, whoever that singer is, whether, and even in those days, the bands were all just, they'd go in the studio with a studio band, the singer would go in and make a record. So when we showed up, we were, that was what my career was in Los Angeles, was playing in the studio a lot. And so it was like strange to hear that, people asked us, well, who's going to play on your record? And I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And so it was a great time when they had us and Foster and Lloyd, and Steve Earle shows up, and Katie Lang was kind of going already. Lyle Lovett was already in the door before us, for sure. And Keynes, and just all of this really, I've talked about this in recent times in some other interviews, going, can you believe those all were names that were on country radio at the same time? And it was very exciting. So thankfully, we did happen to be the one that kind of had, the blessing of being the one that certainly kind of rose to the top in a way, not that we were better, just that we had the right, business associations that allow that stuff to happen.
Yeah. And I mean, and you guys, you were hot and heavy there for a while, getting a lot of great songs out. I mean, on, I believe, one of your albums, you had 4 top number one hits on it. We had about 5 years where we could do no wrong. Right. And I mean, and you were popular here as well as in other countries. Like you mentioned, you also had some hits over in Canada, and you know, you were...
Our first gold record was Canada. Canada was really the first place that we really blew up.
Yeah.
But we had, like I said, the European writers are who voted us international group of the year. And I don't know, there's, when I look at royalty stuff, there were certainly Japan, Australia, other places that it was, getting airplay.
Right.
But country music in that time frame was so geared towards the U.S. and Canada that, it was nice to see those things happening. Unlike now, when country music has become pop music in general, and it certainly is having, I'm sure, a more global accepted impact. But we were the beginning of the new day.
Yeah. Well, I think what would have had you, more global that it was not present, which is present now, which is really helpful to a lot of artists, is the whole social media. The world's a lot smaller.
Totally.
Internet. And I think, you guys would have been able to really use that and have that expand. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a brilliant point. The irony was we did, and even before the social media explosion, we were the first. We definitely, and I don't think either Kix or Ronnie or anybody would have an issue with this, but we made the way for Brooks and Dunn, for Garth Brooks, for all of those people who had Brooks names. No, I'm just kidding. We were the first, band to come in and my drums definitely sounded like a rock record. We used sounds that were bigger and different, and even though we were ironically playing some really stone cold country music, Whiskey If You're a Woman, and all those songs were, the blame and all the things we did record, but we recorded them just with a little different attitude. But yeah, that's the social side of this. If we'd had a Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Periscope reality, that was for sure. We were always looking for and trying to push the envelope. Mm-hmm. And we're told numerous times by the record company, no, you guys don't get it. This is country music. We don't do that. Mm-hmm. And, 6 years later, we'll say, as I'm watching what Garth Brooks and Dunn and all of those people were doing at that point, I'm going, wait a minute, that's exactly what we said we wanted to do. We wanted to, be on these TV shows and push this kind of a thing and this kind of an image and this, and everything. It was just so, sadly we were trailblazers, and that's not, you usually get punched in the nose. Yeah. But it would have been awesome if we could have used those things. Yeah, if we could have had our own YouTube channel, that I have no doubt would have expanded it, exponentially.
Yeah, I mean, you were popular within the realm that you were allowed to navigate. So to have that realm open up, I don't think there was no stopping you guys at all. But let's, we were talking about social media. Let's jump a little bit further into some of the things that you're involved with, some of the projects that you've had recently going on. I read a few things, like on your Facebook page, for instance. Tell us about some of the stuff that you guys had just in the last year or two. You guys were working on a big project.
Well, now, as in, you're talking about me or Highway, or which part of you guys?
I guess one of the things that I saw, probably more along your lines, was the Union Bound, but that was also Highway 2?
No, not just me.
Okay.
I took all that.
Okay.
But for, last year I was blessed and thrilled, honored to be able to, as you said, I was going, I want to make all the music for this because it was just such a subject matter that I'm so passionate about. Musically speaking, the Civil War time frame is, I just love to see music that's made that sounds like it kind of came from that time. Mm-hmm. And whether it be Ry Cooder, who is one of my very favorite film score guys that has done, movies about Jesse James or whatever, just the way that felt, and I'm really in love with the art form of scoring movies, and I got that call, and that to me was the oh boy, here I can do anything I can dream up sort of green light. And then I also said, well, if I'm going to make music for this, though, because I had actually worked with Michael Davis, who's the guy who produces films, and I had worked with him on other things, doing some theme songs or whatnot. But I said, if I get to do this, I want to be in it. And so he actually got them to write a couple paragraphs or more of lines, and I got to be in it too. So that was, beyond joyous and fun. And that movie is really cool. If you guys, whenever anybody can go, you can still go to, I think, and buy DVDs of it at Walmart and places like that, or wherever they sell DVDs now in life. But Union Bound, and it's a really cool Civil War film. And I had done some other stuff in the film world in the last year or two. There was a very successful sort of documentary film, what do they call it? Docudrama, because it had a whole storyline too, called The Hornet's Nest, that my wife, Winona Judd, and I wrote a song for that was Grammy nominated and Oscar nominated, and is in the film, and I did some of the score stuff for that. There's a new one coming out probably here this spring, April, May-ish, I think is what the release dates are, called Citizen Soldier. That's part of that. I've got more stuff in that, more music in that, and I actually sing a song that's in that one.
Nice.
And then, of course, I produced and created and wrote chunks of and whatnot. My wife and I, as I said, Winona, we have a new kind of collaborative thing together called Winona and the Big Noise. And we have a record that came out this past year, the first, band record, I guess you would say, called Winona and the Big Noise. And that's very much been an exciting part of the year, having really watched the critical acclaim as well as just the kind of changing of the landscape of what kind of music she was making for sure, and just really trying to stay on task with that. We've been touring for that together as the Big Noise, and been out for most of this past year, and I'm sure we will be doing more in 2017 on that front as well.
Well, you guys have or at least you have been on fire. Now, let me just go back to Union Bound for just a minute. Now, we've already mentioned that it's a movie. Now, am I correct on saying that there's also a song and a book that is along with the Union Bound movie?
Yep, there is. There is the book, the storyline. The story is based on such a cool thing. It was based on a family had the diary of a Union soldier who his storyline is pretty amazing. There was, there seems to be like, I don't know, there's a lot of Civil War movies, and I do think that a lot of them, well, I say a lot, I don't know if there's a lot of Civil War movies, but it always feels or felt like to me you mostly see the Southern sort of empathy side of the Civil War oftentimes. Now, this movie doesn't even really take a side. It's just the fact that it was two Union soldiers, or a Union soldier. He was writing his diary, which I had the kind of auspicious honor of holding my hands and reading it to, some and just trying to go through it when we were on the set of the movie. But it was his escape from, Civil War prison, and how he did that, and then went from being captured to even going further south, and then getting sort of in the underground of the slaves and of the, anybody that would, mostly the slaves, that would empathize, and protect he and this other gentleman that he connected with, and it's their, kind of tumultuous story of tracking from the south back to the north, and things they went through, and what this guy wrote about and covered in his diary, his journal. And so that's where the storyline developed from, and the book was written about what he portrayed in pretty vivid detail in his daily journaling.
It looks like it's an amazing story, and if I have the opportunity, I would like to actually watch it and see it.
The movie is fun. It's I don't know. And like I said, I'm very thrilled with how the music plays in the movie. You can, I think it does really help tell the story in a lot of ways, and it's just a cool film.
Now, the girl that did the song for it, who did the song Union Bound that you guys had on your Facebook, was that Nikki?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So she's also from Highway 101 too.
That was the second. Well, in truth, we had Paula Carlson the first 4 years.
Right.
In the second 25, we had Nikki Nelson.
Right. So that's where I thought it was a little bit more from the Highway 101 because both of you guys were involved.
Right. It's truth. That's a good point. And there's been talk of there still being like a Union Bound experience live, somewhat, connected tour where there would be the film would play and we would get to maybe the chance, hopefully with schedules permitting all that, to connect on some of those dates and play the music and the song, any of that stuff. There's no question. But yeah, that's what took place. And of course, Nikki started with Highway in 1991,
right? And
it's still at Highway. It's been whenever there's any opportunity to do those Highway shows, it's Nikki. But of course, we had Bing Bang Boom, first single we actually had with Nikki.
Right.
And still to this day, historically, we're the only group ever to change singers as we did and then be re-nominated and back in the award mix, for groups of the year awards and whatnot. But Nikki was on The Blame, Bing Bang Boom. What were the singles? Now I'm even confused where all they were. But
that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she was not there as much as you and Curtis, but she's definitely been there, and I guess that's where I was thinking where the connection happened with her doing and releasing that movie at the tail end of just last year, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right, just making sure. And it's funny because I also read something about you had made a mention that you actually have a little cameo appearance in the movie. But that's not your first time in front of a camera in your career.
Oh, no.
There was a mention about something with hanging out with Rodney Dangerfield.
That was way back in the. And I've done a lot. I mean, the cool thing was the Union Bound thing was more than a cameo. I mean, the other ones probably were, but that one at least I had lines and acted and did something. Which was I was a one-legged dying soldier. In this one. So I had an actual dying scene.
Oh my gosh.
And ironically, since I had lost my leg 4 years ago in a motorcycle wreck, I was like, nobody else is going to know how that feels. So, everybody back off.
Right.
Anyway, the Dangerfield thing was, truth be known, in 1986, I guess that was. Good gosh, way back machine. We were recording, I had been doing the trial and error recordings for Highway 101. Highway was kind of a studio band. I mean, we would get together, record, try some things, and then go our separate ways and, continue working as busy musicians. Mm-hmm. But when it kind of got down to, geez, this is, The Bed You Made for Me had come out and was doing really well, and we were just trying to decide. I was trying to decide personally. Everybody else was totally in. I was going, I don't know if I want to give up what I have going in Los Angeles on my own, just being my own, guy. Mm-hmm. And Curtis Stone got involved via a publishing company in L.A. with doing the music, or at least doing a song for Rodney Dangerfield, and the movie was Back to School.
Right.
And he called me. He goes, "Did you want to do this thing?" We were newly acquainted friends by then. Who had started doing other stuff outside of getting together to try and figure out what Highway 101 should be. And I was like, well, of course, and so we went and made, a recording of Twist and Shout, did the whole thing, and actually had to go to an audition where they had, 200 people dressed like what they envisioned musicians should look like out on the street there in Hollywood. It's so funny. I still drive by this place, on Highland Boulevard when I'm in California, and it's like, oh my God, there's where we were. And we walked in, Curtis, myself, the guitar player, and maybe the bass player, and who had made the record, who were, the actual musicians. And they just go, well, geez, I guess we could try and use the real band. And and Curtis had sung in the movie version, or on the record version, Curtis sings the first half, Rodney Dangerfield sings the back half. In the movie, there's a little less of Curtis is just singing barely, and then Rodney jumps up. Anyhow, we go in and they go, well, geez, these guys look cool. Let's just use them. So we had to walk back out with all these people who were actors, dressed with big heavy metal hair wigs and, crazy looking stuff to get a part in a movie. And we just thought it was funny. But we did that film. We spent a week on the set. Curtis and myself and Robert Downey Jr. were in one of the trailers. And Curtis was just going, we need to do this band, man. We can write songs. We can be in charge. We can, call the shots and it's our own thing and blah, blah, blah. And he basically spent a week lobbying me to go, I don't know, man. And then, fate did have a hand in it because the first song went right to number 4 in the nation, and then the next subsequent singles were all number 1s. But it just was, it sort of picked us up and took us. There wasn't a lot of, there wasn't a lot of yaying and naying. The first single was a hit, and they were going, you got to get in and make a record, you got to get in. And so I was like, well, that's the next logical step. And then all of a sudden there was a Randy Travis tour laid in front of us in Canada. And then right from that to Hank Jr., and then right from that to a whole year with George Strait, and the following year a whole year with the Judds, and then we just kept, we were pretty golden there, and so it did take us. But that was during the Dangerfield movie where we spent a lot of time brainstorming about being in and becoming that band. Even though we were the guys recording the stuff, still wasn't completely a commitment.
Right.
And and Curtis and I were in L.A., and Jack Daniels, then who was the final piece of the puzzle, that was the guitar player that came into it. Paulette had been in it, but she lived in Minnesota, and it was so it was kind of he and I, the ones that were most front and center, face to face, talking through. But that was the back to school thing, and then I don't know. There's been other. I'm even trying to think now what else. On camera, in camera, there was a lot of television show things.
Yeah.
We lived in L.A. You're always on something, but it was normally being in a band or doing stuff.
Right. Well, that's pretty interesting that was actually the precedence or the placement setting for was to become Highway 101 with you guys getting together.
Yeah, exactly.
Something that was funny turned into something quite serious and quite productive for you guys over a bunch of years immediately following that. So that's a pretty cool story. So you said you do a little touring still with Highway 101 when they get out and they get...
Yeah, when I can. This Winona and myself, this thing has been quite busy since we first got together, and I first started making music with her.
Right.
And there's been a few, and I would, it's still always, I'm always looking for how we can and when we can go out and play together, which would be just a blast.
Right. And I'm sure your fans, just adore you guys and love when you come back and be able to get a couple of shows out there. So, we'll be looking for that. For
one can hope we still are adored.
Yeah, I mean that would be kind of fun to see you guys get out there and do some of those great songs that everybody knows and loves. But as far as Cactus Moser, how about you give us a wink, wink, nudge, nudge of what you got going on? I mean, you're a busy guy. You got a lot of things going on, not only with Winona, but, the movie background, the music background, the producing, the shows. Can you give us a wink, wink, nudge, nudge of what some of your fans can look forward to?
Well, sure. I'm actually just finishing a project here myself that, as a producer anyway, with a band called Short Sleeve Heart. It's a Los Angeles-based group, and we're just now mastering that stuff and looking and working towards what business label-esque associations we can, combine efforts on for that project.
Right.
And then I've really been, because we've been home now since December 18th, I guess, or whatever part of the year. And I'm trying to, before we get crazy busy summertime and all that out on the road, just write a bunch of songs and create what will hopefully be the next Winona and the Big Noise record, which is something you can never stop because they come at you quickly.
Right.
And that's certainly a part of this. that part of that never goes away because I'm always, you need songs and and I'm always looking for songs as a good producer should.
Right.
You need to be aware of what's out there, and that's something that you can do daily if you're really on it.
Wow.
And then we are looking at and beginning I don't know how you would say it, not pre-production yet, but been taking meetings and we're finishing, maybe going to do a documentary that is kind of based on the roots that created, there's a lot of ways you can follow this, but it's, so much of what is every style of music, every popular form of music, ironically, sort of came out of the Delta. We have the Mississippi mystery in a way that is so many of the blues artists, original, guys came from Mississippi, which immediately became the Hank Seniors and became the burgeoning beginnings of where country music came from. Absolutely, that Delta's where that and the connection to that back and forth of Chicago, all the jazz and all the blues sort of, became popularized because of that connection. But then there's the roots of that, how that led to, even country rock music, Fresno, and then moving south to Southern California. And there's, we have connections to, or ties to, some of the real remnants that are left, that are the great versions of what Zydeco music is from New Orleans and Louisiana, and just that whole odd, strange, connected right next to Mississippi, and how down that river the music, but how different and how crazy that is, that it goes from the blues, Clarksdale and all those parts of Mississippi, to you got this Zydeco music that comes from the French Canadian, from the French, then down the river, the St. Lawrence waterway down the Mississippi, and they wind up in New Orleans, and then that becomes a whole other form.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been really on this task of trying to discern how the roots music, which I really did feel like with the Wynonna and the Big Noise record, we tapped into more of that blues influence and more of that, raw thing. So this documentary is really trying to, and even with Cuban music, now that I'm sure we're going to get more of it with the opening of Cuba up to us again. And they're just, my curiosity is how the origins of this stuff have led to now.
Mm-hmm.
So we're working on that. There's a lot there. So how to pare that down, but that's a big part of what I'm doing. And Mike Davis, who was involved in the producer of Union Bands, involved in that as well. And another company called Stick Figure that are in New York City. But there's never, I don't wake up and go, oh, geez, I wish I had something to do.
It doesn't sound like it for sure. We're going to take a quick break with Cactus, and we're going to be back talking to him a little bit more about how you can find out about what this guy's up to, how you can reach out to him, and find out about how you can keep an eye on everything Highway 101 and Cactus Moser, and of course, Wynonna as well. And we're going to be back with some information on that in just a minute. Right here on Penn's Peak Radio and Wall to Wall Country. So we're back here with Cactus Moser, talking to him about a bunch of things, and we're going to move forward now into a little bit more information about him. You've got a big undertaking there, all in its lonesome, but, being able to keep up everything else you have going on. You're a busy guy with producing and working with Wynonna and her stuff, along with getting that call every once in a while from Highway 101 and
mm-hmm.
your acting career.
I will do more of that if I have the opportunity. Yet it's one of those things you go.
I guess one of the things that are left is Cactus. Are you gonna write your own book someday? You're gonna write yourself a autobiography?
that one is to be determined. Who knows? Who knows?
Well, that would be fun too. I'm sure it would be a great read. But it would be. But listen, you know what? I've already taken up a lot of your time, and I just know that people need to stay in touch with you and kind of keep an eye on Cactus Moser. But how would they be able to do that? How would they be able to know about what you have going on, not only with Winona and her band and that production, but you yourself with your adventures and your undertakings? What's some of the ways that they can keep in track of
I don't know, Cactus? Man. You know, ironically, I don't have a website, right? That stuff, which I'm sure I should. Which, if I do, I own the domain of cactusmoser.com.
Oh, there you go.
But it's, Cactus Moser on Facebook is certainly, I'm there, and that's a great way to, somebody goes, hey, let's have him, produce our record. They can certainly reach out there or via any of those methods. And I'm on, Instagram all the time with Cactus Moser, and then Twitter too, which sometimes I do, depends on what's going on in the world. If I want to see how much bad news I want to see, whether I go on Facebook or Instagram or any of those. Some days, yet those are all. Yeah, I'm on.
So the social medias.
Social medias, Instagram, Periscope, even. I do that. Some of that once in a while, just on some wacky moment in time, and then via and there's also at Winona.com, Winona the Big Noise, which is it used to be Winona.com. They can, reach out to me through there, and people always find stuff and get it to me.
That's awesome. And I got to tell you, I mean, you guys are nuts. You guys are crazy and having a great time doing it. It sounds like, keeping busy, coming up with great ideas, getting out there, producing more music and stuff. I just have one last question for you, and I'm sure you've been asked this before, but I would like to know the answer to it. Where did the cactus part come from?
Oh, I was born in southwest Colorado, raised up inches and everything, and I had all these rodeo pals and would wind up in bands that were always, almost universally older guys than me. I was 16, they were always 25, which seemed like old dudes, which was cool. I got to learn from guys who were, musically and talent-wise more advanced. Called me the Kid, and because of all the rodeo stuff and everything like that, they called me the Cactus Kid. Namely, in those time frames, and just people knew it from day one.
Okay.
When I moved to Los Angeles, I was going to go, I don't need to be that. And I'd already been there enough times where everybody was like, oh, Cactus is here. And some people thought, oh, because you had a country band. I was like, I was never in a country band until Highway 101, really, because I was just in, I had played it. Mm-hmm. Was a fan of stuff, but I had never been in a band like that, so it came from that. So that's the main thing. Another thing I was going to mention, too, just so people know, is we do have a foundation, via my leg loss and all that, called Steps of Faith Foundation.org. That is the website, anyway. And we give away prosthetics to those who can't get them via insurance, because it's, ironically, there's a lot who can't.
Wow. And
it's one of there's 500 amputations in the United States a day. So people all think, oh, it's no big deal. And like even Winona and I did the ALS challenge, like we all did or whatnot.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And there's nothing detracting from that. But there were 10,000, 12,000 cases, I want to say, 2 years ago when that was taking place in the U.S. of ALS. And the millions of amputations, and really not everybody's able. So if people would like or could or want to check out, they can go to stepsoffaithfoundation.org, and, would be more than delighted to have anyone, whether it's $10 or 10,000, donations. We always say for $1,000, and it's now down to about $500 a piece, we can make people walk. So that would be awesome. And there was a great documentary on YouTube, Living There Now anyway, called Winona and Cactus, The Road Back. People can check that out and kind of know a little more of my story if they're interested at all in taking care of that. But
that's awesome.
All those things do tie into Highway 101 one way or another, because it was all me.
Yeah. And that's pretty darn amazing. And I mean, I just read a really heartfelt article from Winona when you guys were going through that. You basically had gotten married, and the accident happened, and talk about being thrown into a whole different realm of being husband and wife, And that's just crazy, but sometimes those are the things that just make you stronger, so that's pretty awesome.
It is awesome.
I mean, I just on a personal note, my husband and I hadn't been married yet, but we were together, we were engaged, he worked highway construction, and he got run over by a tractor trailer.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he was in a crash truck and a tractor trailer was doing 72 miles an hour in a construction zone. And in a matter of a second, he got run over. You know, one day everything's fine. The next day it's not. So there's a lesson to be learned there. And we've been married for about 10 years now. So,
and say what?
We've been married for about 10 years after we got through that.
Good. Well, bless your heart for doing all that with him as well.